YouTube. Today we're going to review the rep growth system by Steve Shaw. I'm going to put the article in which Steve wrote his exact system because I don't want to be paraphrasing him and I don't want to misquote him. If you want to get it straight from the horse's mouth, he recently actually reviewed and uploaded what I believe is the latest version of his system. So the link is in the description. Please go read it because I will not be doing that for you. I'm not going to explain to you the system. If you watch this video, it's because you want to hear my opinion on it. So here it is. I'm going to use some of his sentences as basis for my arguments, but I'm not going to detail the system. You need to understand the system before you understand the video. So as far as that goes, there are three main principles, what he calls basics, of the rep growth system. You have to maximize every set, you have to use the same weight for your working sets, and you have to set a rep goal. So as far as the system goes, this basically means that you're going to pick a number of reps that is going to be your rep total, and then you're going to give yourself a certain amount of sets within which you want to achieve that rep total. And once you achieve the rep total, you go up in weight. The upping the weight, at least in this article that Steve prescribes, is 5 pounds. I'm going to explain why that might be a problem later. Let me also say that as far as credentials, history, accomplishments, even YouTube channel fame, Steve is on a different level. I've already made a video responding to one of his videos about front dart training, so it's not the first time that we debate, even though it's not a debate because I'm just talking to a camera. I just want to make clear I have nothing but respect for Steve. The reason why I'm making this video is because a lot of my subscribers wanted to hear about the rep growth system because they employ it and they like it a lot, and they wanted to hear what I think. First off, I never heard about that, even though I've been following Steve for years, which is strange. Most likely because it's semantics. I might have known what he talked about, but I never heard him use that terminology before. But after having read it and I spent some weeks just mulling over it, I've realized that the rep growth system was actually quite familiar. And the reason why is because it's evolving rep ranges. It's what I call evolving rep ranges. I think it's funny because you end up realizing that the principles of volume and intensity exist in the wild. They don't really need to be named. They just exist. But when people approach them with their own sensibilities, they slightly change, and also they take different names. So what I've called evolving rep ranges, he calls rep growth systems. But you're going to see that there are differences between the two, and of course the differences are going to be what I perceive to be weaknesses in Steve Shaw's system and strength in mine. If he made a video about my system, he might say the opposite. It's just my subjective idea. So let's start with the idea that you're maximizing every set. The idea is that because you are not limiting yourself with a static rep range like a 5x5, and you're pushing to get to that rep goal instead, you're going to be able to push further. Let's say you set a goal of 25 reps and you manage to get 25 reps in one set. This is a clear indication that you have the muscular ability to push further. So you're going to be able to add more weight so that you can get to a rep goal that's more realistic. On the other hand, if your rep goal is 25 and you only get 3 on the first set, you know that this is way too much weight. This is, for me, a good way to promote going to failure. Going to failure is very important for hypertrophy. I know some people don't agree with that. I personally think that if you apply the right protocols on your lifts and you know your body, there is no risk in going to failure. I do advise keeping reps in the tank for compound movements, but for the rest, go to failure. It's going to push you into intensity windows that are extremely relevant in terms of muscle fiber damage. It's going to allow you to accumulate quality tonnage, and it promotes progression. That's also what Steve says. That way you stop the set when he says you feel like your form might break down, which is mechanical failure or postural failure, or you feel like you might fail on the next rep, which means that your the muscular failure is coming, and you can sense it coming because most likely you selected a weight that allows you to rep the weight, and therefore you can grind reps without getting injured. And he says that way you never waste a set. I agree to that to an extent, meaning that, and I'm not saying he says that, but I'm just putting it out there. You can still go to failure and waste a set. This usually happens when you go high reps, so much so that you do a set for 20 reps. The first 15 reps, in my opinion, are a waste of time, because the only thing you're doing is you're building lactic acid that might even blunt your ability to reach muscular failure, because it's going to be an artificial muscular failure. I'm going to talk about that in the hypertrophy series. And you're going to get to a point where really the only thing that mattered was the last 5 reps, but you did so many reps to get to that level. So that's one. The wasting a set ideology can also be dangerous, because it can sometimes push people who don't fully understand intensity windows to only do super hard sets, even sometimes going to mechanical failure. But that's not what Steve proposes here. So his idea of maximizing every set is great. Now, let's see if his rep goal system actually promotes that. Well, I think it does. But it does so in a way that, for me, is going to propose problems down the line. I'm going to say, though, outright, that the way he does it is much more conducive to going to failure and actually pushing than my system. Because with what he does, he basically tells you, hey, you pick a rep goal that is going to be your tonnage, meaning you're going to have to multiply that rep goal with the weight to get to your tonnage. Which means what? Which means that, as I said in my first example with the 25 reps, you can keep going as far as you can until you fail, basically, to get to that rep goal. This is not what I prescribe. I prescribe open rep ranges that allow you to go high and low in intensity and volume, but that still have a ceiling, meaning that with a 25 rep range goal, and it's a tonnage goal, really, it's what it is. You can go up to 25. With mine, if I tell you, hey, do 12 to 8, well, that's 12. 12 is your ceiling. So you see that between 0 and 25 of Steve Shaw and my 8 to 12, who has the most ability to push? It's Steve Shaw's system. In a sense, that's a plus for his system that mine doesn't have. Mine doesn't have it, and I say mine. Keep in mind, I'm not the inventor of that thing. People have been doing evolving rep ranges for years. I just push it because for me it's the key to progression for bodybuilding. I do it like this for me because I still want a certain stability in my rep ranges. This is an issue I have with the rep goal system that I'm going to develop later when we talk about progression. It's really open. It's really free, meaning that once you select your tonnage, your ability to get to that tonnage might be influenced by certain things that Shaw doesn't really take into consideration, and that might kill your ability to actually accumulate reps to get to that tonnage, but I'm going to get to that. Basic number 2, same weight. You use the same weight for every set of a given exercise, meaning that you don't pyramid up or down. Once you've entered your working set, you do your working set with that weight. I really like that approach. That's what I do all the time. There are certain movements, or rather, I have certain movements that I have what I call a survival tactique put in place, meaning that I know exactly what I have to do if I do my set 1, and I know that it's not going to be conducive to quality tonnage because it's too hard. Sometimes it happens. Of course, it shouldn't. You shouldn't be losing strength, but sometimes it does. And when it does, it's best to have something put in place to replace it and to not panic than just winging it and putting whatever weight on the bar, right? But for the most part, you should stick to the same weight for your hard sets because it, one, showcases an ability to repeat the effort. It's not a one-time thing. You're not training for that This is a different category of training for strength training that I personally don't master, so I'm not going to talk about it. But you don't want to do one heavy set without the ability to repeat it. That's also where Steve's system and mine differ, because his is going to tell you to hit a certain amount of reps, but it's always going to keep it within a certain amount of sets. And if it didn't, it would be worse. Explanation. Because the rep goal system is always going to tell you to shoot for certain high rep goals, it's never going to be 3. Your goal tonnage is never going to be 3. If it was, you could do one set of 3 reps. But Steve Shaw doesn't want you to do that. He wants you to accumulate the sets to build strength and to stay in higher volume windows, which is a great thing. I say that because if you could go down to one set on his rep goal system, what would happen? Now you're supposed to do one set with 20 reps, so you're going to pick a non-challenging weight and you're going to go back and commit the mistake I spoke about in number 1. You're not really maximizing the set because you're wasting 75% of the reps of the set. But I digress, or do I? As far as the same weight goes, that's what I say, you stick with the same weight, so you repeat the effort and you get volume within the same intensity window. At the end of the day, it's not really the same intensity window, right? Because you are going to be more tired as the sets advance, and because you are using the same weight, your performance is going to decrease because your strength and your muscle fibers are getting tired. That's understood by Shaw. This is why what he does is very close to my evolving rep range. You want a rep goal. You're going to start with your first set that's going to get the max amount of reps, and then it tails down. You might start and get 12 reps, and the last set you might get 7, right? That's perfectly normal. That's perfectly great. You're going to find that the most of the progression you're going to make is going to be in those later sets. And that's also where his system shines and mine doesn't, because with his, the first set can still be pushed. But for me, if you get 12 reps on the first set, now it just becomes a race to maintain your muscular endurance so that you can get 12 and then another 12 and then hopefully an 11 and a 10 so you can go up in weight. For him, that first set where I would tell you stop at 12, you can keep pushing, meaning what? Meaning that you actually push to failure and you're going to try and reach the highest intensity window you can get without failure. But that shows a different approach to training and a different approach to rep goal systems that I'm going to explain right now because I'm afraid I'm going to forget. The reason why I do it like this is because every single lift I do follows that system. From what I get with Steve Shaw, he advises doing that system for what I would call strength work, and he's going to apply it in a minimalist way, meaning that you're going to have maybe 2 exercises in a day. This is not what I do for my program. This is also a key thing that I will have to mention in the Evolving Rep Ranges videos. If I forget, please let me know. Evolving Rep Ranges work within certain programs, but if you use different programs, you need to adapt them. So his rep goal system is a good way to progress in strength if you don't have a ton of exercises for the day, which is why for me, I'm okay with not pushing all the way and just testing muscular endurance because I know there are going to be more and more exercises coming afterwards. The rep goal system of Steve Shaw is going to really allow you to push the bill and to tire yourself out because every single set is going to be pushed as high as you can. And that's within its own right a good thing. He also says that by doing that, you reduce the guessing games involved with wondering when you should add weight to the bar. Here, this is twofold because one, as I said before, when you do pyramid sets and you pyramid up or down, you're always wondering whether you should add 2.5, 5, etc. I wonder if he's also talking about progressing from week to week, because in that case, in my opinion, he's contradicting himself a little bit. Because, as I will show you, the rep goal system, one of the big flaw of the system is that because of how high that tonnage goal allows you to go with the reps on every single set, it makes progression a little bit wobbly. I will get to that. 3, I'm getting to that. Set a rep goal. You set a rep goal for the number of sets you're performing based on your specific goals. It might vary from exercise to exercise. It's really simple, as he says, you need to explore it. So basically, the rep goal can be whatever, but as I said before, you're going to want, if you apply his method, to stick to higher rep ranges for hypertrophy, not for strength. Maybe there's another application for that for strength, but for me, you can still progress with that 20 to 30 reps rep goal, so you can stick to it for every exercise. I don't know, maybe pulls from the floor can benefit from going lower, but you're going to see that it also comes with its own challenges. So I'm going to explain right now why the way he integrates that might be a problem. Because as I said before, you have to pick the sets, right, that are going to be used to accomplish that rep goal. He doesn't really tell you, hey, you have to do 4 sets. Meaning that he's doing evolving rep ranges and evolving set ranges. And that's something I haven't really introduced on the channel yet. Why? Because I want to give people a clear example of what an evolution within the rep range already accomplishes before I start talking about the sets, because now it's another variable and it's a multiplication, not an addition. It makes it much more complicated because it opens the, it's just, a 5x5 is a closed door with a lock. With the evolving rep range, I remove the lock, and with the evolving set, I just kick the door open, right? And then you have no sets, no reps, and you just do as much as you want, and there's no door. But that's not a good system. So, to get back to my point, the issue you're going to have here with his system is that, as I said before, because the first set is going to allow you to push as much as you want, you're going to end up potentially going too deep within your tank for the first set. And some of the rep goal totals that he gives in the examples after he explains his third point sort of show that to me, meaning that he tells you that you want a 30 rep total for the bench on with 225. On the first set you get 11, on the second you get 8, and then you get 6 and 5. In my humble opinion, if you have the ability to hit 11 reps on the first one, you should not lose so much muscular endurance that your ability to go back to baseline is shot by the 4th set and that you can only get 5 reps. That is, to me, either an indication that the form potentially has degraded, or maybe the range of motion wasn't the best at the start, because how do you lose so much strength? This is a flip side effect of the 5x5 sandbagging issue, where you got 5 reps on the first set and 5 reps on the last. How did you manage that thing? How did you go back to baseline so effectively that it seems like you didn't even damage the muscle fiber because you're still able to get the same amount of reps for the last sets? Here it's the opposite. How do you lose so much strength? How do you lose the ability to go back to baseline? Well, the answer to that, in my opinion, is that by going and essentially doing an AMRAP on the first set, you might be grinding reps that you shouldn't grind, and you might be destroying your ability to actually showcase muscular endurance, which is, at the end of the day, a very important metric for hypertrophy. That being said, keep in mind that because you can manipulate the set, it could also be that you're going to find that you get a potential lesser performance on the 4th set, and therefore you're going to cut the 4th set. But then what happens? Now you are stuck with accomplishing too high of a rep goal within 3 sets, so you have to lower the weight. And now you're going to enter the same issue I spoke about at the start, where your reps are going to be too high. So what do you do now? Well, the logic would be to lower your rep goal. So you're going to do 3 sets and you're going to lower the rep goal so that you can still use relatively heavy weights for relatively high reps without going too high. So maybe now you went from 225 for 4 sets and 30 rep goal to 225 for 3 sets, still the 30 rep goal. You understand that the 30 rep goal is not doable. So you lower the 225 bench, but you understand that it's a mistake too. So you go back to 225. You still have the 3 sets, but you're going to lower the rep goal. I hope you're still with me. And now you're going to lower it to maybe 15. What is the issue with what I just said? If you try and do the math in your head, well, now you lowered the volume that you are able to do so much that your ability to manipulate volume and intensity has now shrunk, and you're essentially doing either a 3x5, meaning that you're going to get the same amount of volume that a 3x5 provides, or less. The only difference is going to be that you're not going to be limited by the ceiling of the 5 sets, which is going to push progression. So it's still good. I'm not saying it's bad. I promote that in my program reviews. I am just saying that the nature of the rep goal system can be perverted fairly easily. I hope I was clear. Okay, and that pretty much covers the rep goal system basics, because as I skim through the rest, it's mostly applications and examples of what he means, which I will not be touching. He explains it in details. I just wanted to speak about the basics because what I bring up was not really mentioned in the article. That being said, as far as the examples go, I also find here that he does say certain things that I like, meaning that, for example, he advises you to base the rep goal system on the way your body relates to a certain lift. He also says that the weight you're going to use is going to be depending on that. That being said, he also does have a tendency to use examples where he adds 5 pounds, which might be confusing for trainee because adding 5 pounds on a bench or on a squat and 5 pounds on a barbell curl, especially if you go high in reps, is not the same. And that is pretty much that. There's the last example where he modifies a 5x5 to abide to his set rep goal. And as far as I can see, he does it fairly well, meaning that he takes the 5x5, he takes the tonnage that the 5x5 creates, which is 25. He tells you to shoot for the same amount of reps, but to do it so that you can do it with evolving rep ranges so that you always push. That's an excellent approach. I advise everyone who likes static rep ranges to try and set them up so that they can evolve. You will see that you gain a freedom and ability to progress that is quite excellent. He also says that you should look at averages to decide the amount of reps you want to do. And he also says that there is no perfect or magic rep range, which is very true. And again, not a surprise. I mean, I agree with most of what Steve Shows is saying. He knows what he's talking about. He does say at the end that he advises putting 5 pounds on the bar. For me, I add 10 pounds with my system, which goes to show that your ability to progress is going to be directly correlated with the way you manipulate volume and intensity. But, and I'm going to finish on that, he does say that you need to stick to the amount of pounds on the bar that are going to be conducive to progression because it's not a sprint. And I agree. As long as tonnage is increased, I don't care how much you put on the bar. As long as you progress, I don't care how much weight you put on the bar. That's the nature of it. Progression, as long as progression is there, then you're all good. So to finish up, I think that the rep goal system of Steve Shaw is an excellent system. I detailed its potential flaws so that you can see them coming if you want to apply it. But for anyone on this channel, I would say give this a try because you're not going to be disappointed. So thank you so much. I hope whoever wanted to hear more about that now has a better understanding of the system. Have a good day.